Welcome to another episode of Rising Stories. I'm your host, Corrine Sandifer, and I'm so glad you are joining me this week. I interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and sometimes authors on the show. We talk about how they do life while running a business or writing a novel. It's fun to peek inside their world, and I hope you will join me each week to hear their stories. One way to make sure you don't miss an episode is to make sure that you subscribe, and you can do that right on your iPhone podcast app or on your iTunes on your computer. You can also download the Stitcher app and find me under Rising Stories. I just heard from a listener who left a comment on iTunes, and she says, I enjoy the different variety of guests Corrine brings on the show. They're all very different, and it's fun to hear Corrine interview these guests and learn more not only about their businesses, but how they incorporate business into their lives, especially when many work non-traditional jobs. Thanks, Amy L. Before I introduce my guest, I would love it if you would join me on Instagram. My account is not public, but you as my listener can find me at Corrine Sandifer. My guest today is Crystal Hodges. She is one of the nicest 24-year-olds I know. We met while on an outreach team in Nashville, and I'm so thrilled to interview her today. She is a writer, a speaker, a blogger, and soon-to-be author who found herself thrust in the public eye when her face went viral due to a group's inappropriate use of her photo. Listen to Crystal's story. Hi, Crystal.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How's California? How's it going?
Hot.
Is
it's
it
good.
hot,
It's hot.
really?
Yeah, it's warming up.
Do y'all like it? Because you're in the middle of the state. Where are you exactly?
We're in the Central Valley, Fresno, California.
Yeah. So does it get like really, really hot there?
Some summers we have 40 days in a row of over 100 degrees, like 114, 116. Gets intense.
Wow. Oh, yeah. We suffer here too in Tennessee. But you and I met. You were a high school student. No,
Yeah.
you were in college, or were you in high school?
High
when we
school.
met? You were in high school. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were in high school, and we were doing an outreach at our church years ago. And then, did you end up going to college here, or did you go to college back in California?
I went to a college in Nashville for 1 year, and then I switched back to California.
Okay, and so, yeah, California's fun, I bet.
Yes.
And so you are unique because you are a writer and you are a speaker, and I've always been fascinated by your life, really and
Oh,
truly,
thanks.
because I was like, oh my gosh, she's like I think you even started blogging before I started blogging. I can't remember, but I remember that you've been blogging when it first came out, and you're a photographer, and now you're speaking a lot, and you're writing a book. And so, but what is unique about you is that you were born with a port wine stain birthmark that covers most of your face, and all that entails with that you've had to kind of live with has made you a very interesting and unique person, I think. And it has just added to my fascination with you, because I was like, gosh, how does she do that? And how do you go about, because you've got treatments, and tell me more about your story.
So yeah, I was born with a port wine stain birthmark, and a lot of people think it's a skin pigmentation issue, and it's not. It's caused by like blood vessels that are larger, and there's just more blood flow, and it goes all the way to the brain. And so it's much more than just a skin thing, and it affects bone structure and different things. And so I have laser treatments, which kind of goes in and cauterizes blood vessels, and because the risk of this birthmark that most people also don't realize is that it can grow, and so it's to prevent future medical complications as best as I can on the skin and from the skin and face perspective. So, yeah, so I've had these treatments, but I don't know, even growing up, I didn't think much about them. I didn't think much about like physically looking different. And, so yeah, that's kind of the background, like medical explanation, the boring part, but,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
So,
that's interesting to know because I always thought that it was gonna, like with all your treatments, I was under the impression, I'm glad you said that because I was under the impression that you were trying, that it was, slowly eliminating the port wine stain, but it's more of a medical procedure because you're trying to prevent other complications with what you have with the birthmark.
yeah. Yeah, some people do it because they want the birthmark to get lighter, and that's one of the effects of it. For me, I literally, when I was 18, because I had treatments till I was 11, and I decided to stop, and my mom was like, it's your body, it's your decision. And when I was 18, for the first time in my life, I started Googling my condition, and I was like, the birthmark can grow? What? And so every time I have a treatment, I always get kind of sad because I see it getting lighter and lighter, and I like the coloring effect. I just don't want the growth to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because even with the treatments, I have a couple spots that are showing signs of growth. So for me, I like the coloring. I get sad every time I realize it's getting lighter and lighter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, just to keep myself healthy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so you were telling me earlier that you had a meme that was um, because of your physical look, you had this meme that went viral. But
Mhm.
explain that to me. So somebody made a meme with your face, with your picture. Like, where did they get the picture from?
I'm assuming it came from my blog because I don't know. I blog about my story and like when I started having laser treatments again, people on Facebook got really confused because they're like, don't you know you're beautiful the way you are? Why are you trying to get it lighter? So I thought, whoa, let me step back and blog about it and explain it like one time on my blog. But it ended up becoming this like regular thing where people were interested about that part of my life that I always thought was normal, but apparently isn't. And so, I just always shared images with every blog entry, and I'm assuming that's where they got the picture. And so, yeah, they took one of my selfies after my treatment, which is when the birthmark looks like a darker purple and kind of swollen.
Mm-hmm.
And they added their logo to my photo in the bottom right hand corner and the text "One like equals beautiful." And I went viral to over 30 million people around the world. And one share alone has 256,000 likes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you grab it and put it on any of your things, or is it like protected, or I mean, what did they do after?
So I don't know. It's like a roller coaster of things. Like you get confused. Why are they doing this? What does this mean? Who
Mhm.
is doing this? And
Right.
so I waited 6 days before I responded to the issue. I posted about it happening, but then that's all I said. And 6 days later, I did a blog response and I took the original image
Mm-hmm.
and I added my own text to it to the side and, something along the lines of, like I've never needed the internet or thousands of strangers are online to validate my beauty. Like I just don't, and nobody needs that. Like we should know we're beautiful
True.
just the way we are. We don't need the internet, thousands of strangers. That's crazy. And so I took it back in that way. And every now and then I find a unique way to tweak it to like make it my own because it's about like making the image mine again. Because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And there's my face, and I read about 30,000 comments, I think. And it was like all these people were putting fictional thousands of words by my picture, assuming and what that they knew what it was and the backstory, and
Mm-hmm.
most people got it wrong. And so it's just taking that image back and owning
Yeah.
it again. So yeah,
Okay, I do remember when that was happening now. Yeah. And
yeah.
so you but then it says you were on a show called The Undateables and Too Ugly for Love. What is that about?
Well, okay, I wasn't actually on the show. I got asked to be on it, and
Oh, you got asked to be on it. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
I got that email. Someone emailed me and they were like, "We have the show for people with significant medical conditions who are looking for love. And I was like,
Oh,
that's dodgy. Like, what does that mean? And they wouldn't tell me the titles directly. I had to go to their website, and the two shows were The Undateables and Too Ugly for Love. And so it's for people with conditions who are single. And I'm like, well, how do they even know I'm single? But
true.
and yeah, it's based in England, and yeah, and I did a blog response on like why my birthmark made me more dateable, which seemed kind of like I was doing this fancy like dating ad, but I had, I wanted to be like, no, like this is not okay, but here's how I'm gonna put a positive spin on it, and
Mhm.
so yeah, I didn't go on the show, but I did get asked, and I was like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, that's what I like about you, Crystal. Like, since when I met you, it just seemed like, when because we were doing like mission work and stuff that week, and some of the things that I remember, even back then when you were younger, how you had like this outlook on life, like, and I think that's just your personality and how God made you. But it was like, you just would look at things like, oh well, we can do this. Like if something was that week was, we were rerouted to something else, another place or whatever, we would just go with the flow. Like that time we were in downtown Nashville and just kind of doing some street, praying and helping people and passing out water bottles. It was like you you just were like, well, we can just do this. And, everything was a very positive spin on it, which I just absolutely love about you. And I think that really everybody should have it. And it helps with any situation, every situation that you can come across. And so one of the most fascinating things about you is that you lived in London.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I worked with a mission organization called Operation Mobilization, or OM for short, and I lived there for 6 months as a journalism intern, and I would basically work in the office with their journalism person, or their journalist, and I would help tell stories, and I would also, when the team would do work reaching out to people in the streets of London, I would also partake with that, but I would also have my camera with me taking pictures and having a notebook to like take notes and basically making videos for them as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did that for about 6 months and worked with a very international team. And it was one of the most stretching experiences of my life, but also the best. Like it's a highlight. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Wow, that sounds really fun. Is London the only place you've been to? It seems like you've been all over.
I've been to 11 different countries and over half the US states. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, my favorite country I've been to so far that's just stolen my heart is Japan. And I've been there 3 times.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I do, I've been following you, so I do remember you going to Japan, and I remember that you really, really loved it there. Um,
I do.
tell me
Yeah.
tell me why you love Japan.
I don't know. It's just,
Is it the
uh,
people? Is it the climate?
I think it's
The way of life?
the people and the culture. And I don't know. There's just something about it that just gets me every time. And when I was 12, I would write with missionaries who lived in Japan, and they would tell me about their heart for the country and, why they went there. And it just put this desire in my heart to go. And I went when I was 15. I saved up all my money and convinced my parents to let me go across the ocean to see some missionaries. And they let me go. And so I went, and I was just hooked. I don't know. I love it. The food's great. The people are great. The culture's great.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's neat. So you are currently writing your memoir, or you're writing a story about
Yes.
you and
Yeah.
yourself. Okay. Tell me more about that. When is it supposed to be released, or where are you in that process?
So I'm still in the writing process. This summer I'm going to Nashville for a couple of months, and part of it's to see people, but also to go to a quiet place and just write. And so I'm hoping to finish the writing process before the end of the year. I'm not sure when it will be published exactly because I I have to work with an agent and publishers. And even it was interesting because before I wrote a single word, I had 4 publishers knocking on my door showing interest. And I got really
Wow.
intimidated for a while because I was like, what if I write it and then they hate it? And all these people are like
No.
calling me every other day. And so at first I kind of freaked myself out, and that was like my bad thing. But yeah, so I don't really know when it will be published because I haven't picked a publisher yet. But I have plans to send it to an agent who will then help me with the whole publisher aspect.
Mm-hmm. Wow. People can only dream of having 4 publishers to pick from. And you've
Yeah.
got, yeah, or one, and you've got 4. That's amazing. And you also have written a kid's book. So is that going to be something that you're going to release maybe later on, like after your
Um,
big book?
I haven't figured out the order of that yet. I finished writing it, and I'm planning to work with an editor within the next few weeks to go over it, see how else I can kind of tweak it, and then I'm going to submit that to an agent as well. So I'm not sure if they're going to kind of go around the same time or if the kids' book will come a little later. I haven't quite figured out the order. I just know I have it written, and I'm really, really excited about it.
That's neat. And so you do a lot of speaking. Um, what topics do you speak on when you go speaking? You go speaking at churches, and you do schools, and
Yeah.
even for hospitals and cosmetic companies, and
Yeah, it really depends on where I'm at, because I mean, if I'm in a public school setting, I can't really mention anything about my walk and my with God, and so I have to minimize that in that setting for legal issues, and also like for hospitals, I do sensitivity talks so that I can tell doctors and nurses about my story and tell them stories that have happened within a hospital's walls, and
hmm
trying to encourage them like, hey, this is what happened, but here's how we can do this better next time, or here's how you can handle this situation if it comes up for you. And then in schools, I talk about basically a lot of teachers want me to talk about bullying, like online and in person,
hmm
but also celebrating who we are, and how are you supposed to treat people who physically look different when you see them? And because I feel like kids they're just curious, and they're
yeah,
trying to figure out how to do that in a kind way. And so, I mean, for me, it's like one of my goals to break stereotypes before they're built, because I think a lot of people aren't introduced to people who physically look different early enough.
hmm
Um, or when they are taught, like when they see them, they're taught to not ask anything and to look away. And
hmm
so, I go into schools and I talk to kids. How do you do this? What's acceptable? And so churches, I mean, I talk about my story, and also with the faith aspect to it and the lessons I learned during this walk. So,
yeah. That's a very good point about because people don't know what to say. I mean, for whatever, you know, reason, either, a deformity or like they can't, they're in a wheelchair or, um, like yours, you've got the port wine stain or, um, just, all of those people just look away because you don't know
mhm.
what to say. You don't know how to, and kids, but little kids are like, hey, they'll just come up and like, why do you have that on your face? I'm sure.
Yeah. And I actually was in Target one time, and this kid was like, Mommy, what happened to her face? I think I was 6 feet away from them. I mean, I was walking their direction anyway, and I was like, oh, I don't mind explaining. But the mom just started yelling at her child and pretended I wasn't even there. And I'm like, no, I'm the speaker. Like, I don't mind explaining. Like, this is what I do. I work at a school. And I was non existent in that situation. And I
Oh
was like, that
no.
poor kid. I literally saw the child shrink into a cart and like just
Oh,
shrivel up, like get super small. And so, yeah, it's an interesting experience to have a facial difference and see how people react, because it is, they either look away or they stare and make comments. And
hmm
kids are that in between of like, they're curious, they want to get to know you, and but they also want to understand what they're seeing. And
yeah,
so it's just an interesting experience to see the differences between the ages as well, from
yeah.
kids to adulthood.
And I think, because my kids had a teacher who was a dwarf. And
Hmm.
so she would just automatically just start talking to them about her dwarfism and what it means and what it looked like and what she was like as a young child. And so it dispelled all the questions. And then it's like, then you don't even see it. You just see another person, which is what what it should be. And it's like it kind of just takes away, it dissolves all of the, oh, I can't think of the word, but just, not knowing, the not
Like,
knowing, I think, is
yeah, and like stigma
the
that goes with
stigma.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's great that you're educating and that you're willing to talk with people. It's terrible that that mom was like not wanting to give her child that, getting to know someone that has that and that could, have a conversation. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, but really, it's probably partially how the mom was also raised. Maybe a similar situation happened to her in her childhood where she was asking, and then that's how her parents reacted. So it could be, this chain of effects, just the way that's how she was taught to handle those situations. So I think it's just we have to break down um, how things are going, and we need to change how the conversation is happening
Hmm.
and just I don't know, just yeah, talk about it and be open about it. And I mean, not everybody with a physical difference is wanting to talk about it because there are days where I'm like, I just want to be Crystal. Like I don't always want to be Crystal at the birthmark, and those days don't happen very often, but sometimes they do happen. Maybe I'm having a bad day with school or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but for the most part, I talk to a lot of people with physical differences, and I would say about 98% of them are open to talking about it. And I think in the moment you can kind of read their body language and you can kind of like hear what they're saying, and you just have to play it by ear in that moment. And so, yeah, I'd say like 98% of us are willing to talk about our situations most of the time.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. So tell me, with what you do, you're a blogger, writer, speaker. Give me a snapshot of a day in the life of Crystal.
Well, every day is kind of different because I've been going to school, and so every semester is different. Sometimes I'm taking 6 units, sometimes I'm taking 18, and it depends on the job. Right now, I'm a social media coordinator for a nonprofit, and so I will tweet and do Facebook status updates for them or make videos for them on occasion. And I go to classes, and so I will often go to a coffee shop to write because I realized I can do some writing at home, but I really have to like get out of the house so I'm not distracted.
Hmm.
But I also do a lot of babysitting for my niece and my like, cousins, and but yeah, so like I do a lot of writing and just yeah, blogging and writing a book.
I'm with you. I like getting away too, to quiet, even though it's a noisy place, but it's a quiet place because it's kind of like white noise in a coffee shop,
Hmm.
or getting away. It just kind of um, gets you in your own little world, so to speak, but you're among people, but at the same time, you can kind of just tune everything out and
Yeah.
write.
And there you
Um,
can always like turn off your phone. But when you're at the house, like, because I still currently live with my parents, like, I can't turn off their voices. Like, so if they're calling me from another room, I can't go, okay, I'm turning you off now.
right,
So if
right.
you go to a coffee shop, you can turn your phone over. You can literally turn it off. You can detach from your personal world for a few hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is your favorite business app? Do you have like an app that you use?
I don't have an app. I have websites that I use, but I don't necessarily have apps. Where I like to do a lot of free teleseminars and
Mm-hmm.
webinars that a guy named Steve Harrison does. His content is great, and so he talks about how to publish your book and how to like. He did one recently, which I missed it sadly, but how you should really try to sell your books to libraries because they're constantly wanting books, and that's a good angle most people forget to sell to. And so he talks about media exposure and how to gain like media exposure if that's what you're desiring. And so then I do Michael Hyatt's online or what his online like his university, the I'm blanking on the actual name, but it has the word
Oh,
university.
yes. I should know because I'm in Nashville. So, and I've seen his, is it the entrepreneur something or is it
Platform
Platform
University. I knew it would come
University?
to me. Yeah, and so then I've also one of the things I've realized doing this, like, because I feel like sometimes I get overstretched, and so I'm learning how to not get overstretched. And so sometimes, like, it's okay to pay someone else like a little bit of money to do something for you. And so, like, I've discovered this site, and I don't know if it's pronounced Fiverr or Fiverr.com.
Fiverr. Yep.
Fiverr.com,
I
where,
love
like,
that.
if I need a logo designed, I do not need to spend hours on Photoshop coming up with something that's mediocre when I can pay $15 on that site for somebody to do it. It just costs a few Starbucks or Jamba Juice smoothies, and it's so much easier and faster on.
Yes.
I
Amen,
can
sister.
prioritize. Yeah, I can focus where my skill sets are actually, angled
Right.
toward.
I think that's the hardest thing to learn for a small business owner or entrepreneur or author is to kind of assess and figure out what you need to outsource
Hmm.
because you can spend a whole lot of time trying to figure something out
Yeah.
when you really need to be like for me I love podcasting and I love talking with people and interviewing, but I don't necessarily like maybe putting out my MailChimp newsletter,
Right.
um, things like that. That I can always just hire someone to do that for me instead of trying to rack my brain around it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even someone made the recommendation of like finding high school students to find like smaller things that I know a high school student can do and do it like an internship because then they can add that to their resume and use me as like a reference. And I
That's a
haven't done
great
that yet,
idea.
but yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
High
That's
school
a great
students and
idea.
that works for college applications for them too. So I plan to like venture that way at some point to like to see if someone's willing to do internship related stuff when I get to that point.
Yeah, that I didn't think about that, but that's a great idea. Yeah. So, tell me what book you're reading now.
So I just finished Annie F. Downs' Looking for Lovely. I was on her book launch team, and the book is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on her team. Like, it
Is it
really.
really? I can't wait to read it.
I finished it within a day, and I was ready to read it a second time instantly.
Now, tell me who she is. I kind of have seen her around, but I don't know other than you're on her launch team. I don't really know her, and I'm friends with her on Facebook, but I think it's just I don't know. I can't remember how I found her. I just wanted to find out who she was, and so tell me
Yeah.
about her.
She was originally a teacher from Georgia, and she also wanted to be a writer and speaker. So then she took that step and moved to Nashville, where a lot of the industry is. And she's written like four books and like three devotionals. There are two Looking for Lovely devotionals, which I haven't started yet, but one is for teens and one is for adults. And I bought both because I work with both audiences, and I just wanted to
Hmm.
see how they vary. Um, and so, yeah, she has one called Let's All Be Brave, which is amazing in itself, too, because it talks about how sometimes being brave is saying yes to a situation. And she covered a really important thing that being brave can also be saying no. Like, you might be saying no to something, and that's brave, too. To say no, like, I'm overstretched and I can't take on this project. Like, that can be brave in itself. And so it's just, she has a lot of really great books. I've loved every single one of her books.
That's great. I've got Looking for Lovely is on my list of books that I want to get and read. So I'll be curious to hear about more about that and look into it. So yeah, she sounds really cool.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think about it.
Okay.
But yeah, I follow her on Snapchat, and she's doing a Looking for Lovely event in Nashville this summer. And so for my birthday present to myself, I'm going.
Good for you. When is
Yeah,
that? That's coming up, right? This summer. You
it's in
in
July.
July.
The week of like the 22nd to the 24th. I think that's when it is, or something. Around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and it like the ticket I have like includes like seeing Dave Barnes debut at the Ryman. So
Oh wow.
yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm
You're going to be
excited.
all over Nashville. That's
I
awesome. Yay. So what 3 things are you absolutely loving right now that you just want to text about?
Okay, so this is going to be really ironic, but I, like recently, when you asked me to be on your podcast, I sat there and I realized, oh dear, I've never listened to a podcast. Which is so funny because I'm so into technology.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really like podcasting. Like it's so fascinating and interesting. And I've been listening to yours and Annie F. Downs, her podcast that she has. And so I'm now like, what other podcasts can I listen
I
to?
can
Like,
hook you up to some more. I'm telling you, I love podcasting too. It's like I first started listening to Serial, which is and the I haven't finished it. It's the American Life, This American Life. And it's like true stories. Um I highly recommend that one.
okay,
Um
remember that.
and the thing about me is I because it's a like it's sort of like a series, like it has episodes, and it's a story in of itself, just one big story, and it kind of goes through this trial of this young man, and they're trying to find, something that will get him out of jail and quit him anyway. So but like there's so many episodes, and then they start another series. But what's funny is like I've got like 3 episodes left, and I'm like, it's like I'm eating that last bit of cake just really slowly because I don't want it to end, because I love it so much. Like I'm hoping that, I don't know, I guess I could always listen to it again, but to me, I'm just like, I do that with books too. I was reading Jen Hatmaker's book, and I didn't want it to end. So like, I think I left that last chapter for like, I would read like a page and then put it down. I was like, I didn't want it to end. So I'm funny that way. But yeah, so podcasting, number 1. So you're into
Yeah.
it now.
Like,
Good.
forget Netflix binging. I just now want a podcast binge, which is fitting because I'm about to drive to Nashville from California. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna binge podcast almost all the way there. I
There
think.
you
Like,
go.
forget
Yeah.
music. I got podcast.
There you go. Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
fun.
So the second thing I think I'm totally digging. No, I don't think I'm digging. I'm loving. I know I am. I love being an aunt. Like, I have a niece who's about 1 year
Oh,
old, and so
she's going to be how old?
she's 1. She's 15 months right now. Yeah, and she's cute. She gave me some slobbery wet kisses for the very first time last week, which is the
Oh,
grossest but sweetest thing at the same
it
time.
is.
Yeah. And so I'm the best person outside of her mother and father who can like get her down for a nap too. So like we have this
Oh,
cool bond. And the third thing that I'm like totally loving. Um, that is a great question. Being done with school for
oh, yay.
yeah, like I just got my associate's degree in sign language, and so that is just I can breathe.
Yeah.
Just knowing that's done.
So you're taking the summer off and you're
Hmm.
coming to Nashville, so that's good. And so when will you start back up to do your you're working on your associate's degree. Is that right? Or
So
did you
I just
finish?
finished. I
You just
just
finished that.
finished, yeah. So that part's done. But I love sign language, and I plan to like keep that up. But I'm switching my major for my bachelor's, which is crazy because like that just kind of adds a little more time. But I recently got hooked to the whole marketing and mass communications angle of things, and as a social media coordinator and photographer and like a writer and a speaker, I feel like I should probably study mass communications and just even marketing. It's just fascinating. So
Mhm.
um, I'm going that angle for my bachelor's.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. So you might start in the fall or sometime, maybe.
Yeah, I signed up at our local city college that I just finished at for all of their marketing classes for next semester.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I don't have general ed, so I can pretty much cover everything in one go for
Hmm.
that semester for the marketing angle.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned Snapchat. I just recently got on Snapchat. Although my kids, I don't have anybody. I think I only have like maybe 2 or 3 people that are connecting
Hmm.
with me. I don't even really know how it works. So find me and I'll find you
Okay. I can
on that.
always teach you in Nashville. When I get to town, we can sit
Yes.
down and I'll teach you Snapchat. I literally just got on Snapchat like in October. My friends told me to get on there, and I use the app way more than they do now. And I'm just hooked. It took me a while to get to it because, you go viral, your image is stolen. The idea of Snapchat at first is just kind of like, well, I've already gone viral once. Like, how does this really work?
Right.
But now I'm like over it, and I'm just like, oh, Snapchat is awesome. So
yeah. I like the whole, making little stories and things like that. That's interesting. So, well, thanks so much for coming on. And I'm so glad you have found podcasting and you're listening.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. So you'll have to download all of, you'll be fat. I don't know how many you've listened to, but we've had some really good guest here, and you're one of them, so I'm excited for everybody to hear you, and
thank you.
all the while you're listening to all the other ones too. So thanks so much, and I'm sure I will see you in real life in Nashville soon.
Yeah, let's get together and go to dinner or something and
definitely
learn about that.
Definitely. Oh gosh, wasn't she a delight? I'm so glad Crystal was able to join us on the show. I learned a lot from her today. I know that I need to change the words I use to describe her and others who have facial differences. Thanks, Crystal. Remember, you can find out more about Crystal and all that we talked about on the show notes at CorrineSandifer.com. Thanks again for spending this time with me, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all the episodes every Thursday. Have a great day.